The sound of his palm against my cheek was louder than I expected. Sharp, final, like a door slamming shut on everything I thought I knew. Mark stood over me in our Dallas kitchen, his breath ragged, his eyes cold in a way I'd never seen before. And then he said it. The words that would change everything. "Pack your things and move in with my mother. You're done here." I should have been afraid, but all I could think was, why his mother's place? Before we continue, kindly comment the city where you are watching from, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story like this. Now let's continue. The kitchen lights in our Dallas home had always felt warm, soft yellow against white tile, the kind of light that made you feel safe. But that night, standing under those same lights with my cheek burning and my husband's voice still ringing in my ears, the warmth was gone. Mark Turner, my husband of 7 years, had just slapped me. Not a push, not a shove, a slap, open palm, across my face. And then he'd said those words, "Pack your things and move in with my mother." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, one hand pressed to my cheek, trying to understand what had just happened. We'd been arguing about something small, his late nights, the calls he always took in the garage, the way he flinched whenever I asked about his day. But this felt like something else entirely. Mark turned away from me, running a hand through his hair. His shoulders were tight, his jaw was clenched. He looked like a man trying to hold something inside, something bigger than anger. "You don't understand," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "You never understand." "Then help me understand," I said quietly. My voice didn't shake. Not yet. He didn't answer. He just grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair and headed for the door. And that's when it happened. The envelope. It slipped out of his jacket pocket and hit the floor with a soft thud. Plain white, business-sized. But what caught my eye was the logo in the corner. A bank I'd never heard of. Not our bank. Not any bank I recognized. Mark didn't notice. He was already halfway to the door, his hand on the knob, his back to me. "I mean it, Rebecca," he said without turning around. "My mother's expecting you tomorrow. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." And then he was gone. The door closed. The house went silent. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the envelope on the floor. My cheek still stung. My mind was spinning. But one thought kept circling back, louder than the rest. Why his mother's house? Mark's mother lived in a small rental on the outskirts of Dallas. We barely spoke to her. She'd never liked me. And Mark had always kept his distance from her, too. So why now? Why suddenly insist I go there? Unless he needed me out of this house. Unless he needed me somewhere he could control. I bent down and picked up the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. Thicker. I turned it over in my hands, and that's when I saw it. My name. Printed on the front in clean black ink. Mrs. Rebecca Turner. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A bank statement. And at the top, in bold letters, was an account number I didn't recognize. The balance made my stomach drop. $800,000. I read it again, then again. My name was on the account. My social security number was listed. But I had never opened this account. I had never seen this bank before in my life. And yet, there it was, my name, my identity, tied to more money than I'd ever seen. I looked toward the door where Mark had just left, and for the first time that night, I felt something sharper than confusion, sharper than fear. I felt certainty. This wasn't about anger. This wasn't about a fight. This was something else, something planned, something dangerous, and Mark Turner had just made his first mistake. He'd left the envelope behind. I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours, staring at that bank statement. The numbers didn't change. The name didn't change. It was my account, except it wasn't. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, not yet, but from the weight of understanding. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some clerical error. Someone had opened this account in my name. and I knew exactly who. I thought back to the past few months, the late nights Mark spent working, the calls he took in the garage with the door closed, the way he'd started paying for things in cash, expensive things, a new watch, new suits, weekend trips he said were business deals. I'd questioned him once, just once. "Where's all this money coming from, Mark?" He'd smiled at me, that easy, confident smile he always used when he wanted to shut down a conversation. "Discount deals, babe. You know how it is. Right place, right time." I'd believed him, because I wanted to. Because it was easier than admitting what I already suspected. But now, sitting in that kitchen with the evidence in my hands, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. There was something else, something I hadn't told anyone. Not my sister, not my friends, not even myself, really. Not until now. 3 months ago, I'd followed him. It was a Saturday. Mark said he had a meeting at a property near Lake Ray Hubbard. "Quick walkthrough," he'd said. "I'll be back by noon." But something in his voice felt wrong. Too casual, too rehearsed. So I'd waited 20 minutes, then gotten in my car and followed him. I kept my distance, watched him take the exit toward the lake, watched him pull into a graveled driveway leading to a remote cabin tucked back in the trees. And I watched him go inside, but he wasn't alone. 2 men were waiting for him. I couldn't see their faces from where I'd parked, but I saw them handmark something, a folder, thick, the kind of folder that holds documents, important documents. They talked for maybe 10 minutes. Then Mark left. And I drove home before he could catch me. I never asked him about it. I told myself it was business. Told myself I was being paranoid. But now, with this bank statement in my hands, I understood. That cabin wasn't a property deal. Those men weren't clients. Mark was hiding something, and he was using my name to do it. I grabbed my phone. My fingers were steadier now, focused. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I needed. Angela Pierce. She was a lawyer in downtown Dallas. Sharp, no nonsense. I'd met her at a charity event 2 years ago, and we'd stayed in touch. She handled fraud cases, high-profile ones, the kind that made the news. If anyone could tell me what I was looking at, it was her. The phone rang twice before she picked up. "Rebecca?" Her voice was calm, professional. "It's late. Everything okay?" "No." I didn't sugarcoat it. "I need your help. I just found a bank statement with my name on it. An account I never opened. There's over $800,000 in it." Silence on the other end. Not the good kind. "Angela? Where's Mark right now?" Her tone had shifted, no longer casual, alert. "He left. We had a fight. He told me to pack my things and move in with his mother." Another pause. Longer this time. "Rebecca, listen to me very carefully." Angela's voice was steady, but I could hear the urgency beneath it. "I need you to leave that house. Right now. Don't pack. Don't wait for him to come back. Just get in your car and drive to my office. I'll meet you there." My chest tightened. "Why? What's going on?" "I can't explain over the phone, but if what you're telling me is true, if someone opened that account in your name, you're not just dealing with fraud. You're dealing with something federal. Federal. The word hit me like ice water. "Angela, what are you saying?" "I'm saying you need to leave. Now. Before Mark comes back. Do you understand?" I looked toward the door. The house was still quiet, empty, but suddenly it didn't feel safe anymore. "I understand," I whispered. "Good. I'll see you in 20 minutes. And Rebecca?" She paused. "Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not your sister. Not your friends. No one." The line went dead. I sat there for one more second, staring at the bank statement. Then I grabbed my purse, my keys, and walked out of the house I'd called home for 7 years. I didn't look back. Angela's office was on the 15th floor of a glass tower in downtown Dallas. The kind of building where every window reflected the city lights, and every hallway smelled like expensive coffee and ambition. But that night, at nearly 11 o'clock, the lobby was empty. The elevators hummed softly, and when I stepped inside Angela's office, she was already waiting, laptop open, files spread across her desk, her face lit by the cold glow of the screen. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes went straight to my cheek. The mark from Mark's slap had faded, but not completely. "Sit down," she said quietly. I did. She closed her laptop and leaned forward, her hands folded on the desk. "Tell me everything. Start with the bank statement." I pulled it from my purse and slid it across the desk. She picked it up, scanned it, and her jaw tightened. "This account was opened 4 months ago," she said. "Did you sign anything during that time? Any documents Mark asked you to review? Any forms he said were routine?" "No, nothing." "Good, that's good." She set the statement down and looked at me directly. "Rebecca, this is identity fraud. If the IRS flags this account, and they will, you'll be the one they come after. Not Mark. You." The words settled over me like a weight I couldn't lift. "But I didn't do anything," I whispered. "I know, but your name is on it. Your social security number is on it. And unless we can prove Mark forged your signature, you're legally responsible for every dollar that moves through that account." I felt my throat tighten. "So what do I do?" Angela leaned back in her chair. "You tell me everything, every detail, every suspicion, every time Mark acted strange or secretive. I need the full picture." So I told her about the late nights, the cash, the calls in the garage, the luxury purchases he couldn't explain. And then I told her about the cabin. Her expression didn't change, but I saw the shift in her eyes. Recognition, maybe even concern. "The cabin near Lake Ray Hubbard?" she asked carefully. "Yes, I followed him there 3 months ago. He met 2 men. They gave him a folder. I couldn't see their faces, but—" "Stop." Angela held up a hand. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge to it now. "Did you say Lake Ray Hubbard? East side or west?" "East, near the inlet. There was a gravel driveway and—" "Rebecca." She stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the city. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, almost careful. "That location is part of an ongoing federal investigation." The air left my lungs. "Federal?" She turned back to me. "The men Mark met, if they're who I think they are, they're under surveillance. The FBI has been watching that property for months. It's connected to a money laundering operation. Ponzi schemes, falsified accounts, forged identities." My hands gripped the arms of the chair, and Mark is part of it. It looks that way. I felt something crack open inside me. Not fear, not sadness, something sharper. Something that felt almost like betrayal finally taking shape. "He used me," I said quietly. Angela nodded. "Yes, and if we don't move fast, he's going to make sure you take the fall for it." She sat back down and pulled a legal pad toward her. "I need you to write down everything you remember, every trip, every meeting, every name you heard, every date you can recall. We're going to build a timeline." "And then what?" "Then I'm going to make a call." She met my eyes. "Rebecca, this isn't just a case I can handle alone. If the feds are involved, we need to cooperate with them. That means telling them everything you know, and it means they'll need you to testify if it comes to that." Testify. Against my own husband. I thought about Mark standing over me in the kitchen, the coldness in his voice, the way he'd told me to leave without a shred of guilt. "I'll do it," I said. Angela nodded. "Good. I'll reach out to the lead investigator first thing in the morning. But tonight you need to stay somewhere safe. Not your house. Not a friend's place. Somewhere Mark won't think to look." I started to respond, but then I saw it. Headlights sweeping across the window behind Angela. A car pulling into the parking garage below. Angela noticed my expression. "What's wrong?" I stood up slowly, walked to the window, and looked down. The car was idling near the entrance. Dark sedan. Tinted windows. and even from 15 floors up, I could see the silhouette of the driver, watching. Rebecca? Angela's voice was sharper now. I turned to her, my pulse hammering in my ears. Someone followed me here. Angela moved fast. She closed the blinds, killed the lights, and pulled me away from the window. The office went dark except for the glow of her desk lamp. Are you sure someone followed you? Her voice was steady, but her hands were already reaching for her phone. I don't know. Maybe. I stopped, took a breath. I didn't see anyone behind me on the highway, but that car could be security, could be a late worker. She glanced toward the window. Or it could be someone Mark sent to see where you went. The thought made my skin crawl. Angela tapped her phone screen, then held it to her ear. I'm calling the investigator now. We're not waiting until morning. I watched her pace, listened to her speak in low, clipped sentences. She mentioned my name, the account, the cabin, and then she said something that made my stomach twist. Yes, I'm aware she's listed. That's why I'm calling. She hung up and looked at me. He's coming, now, 15 minutes. Who? Special Agent Calloway, FBI. He's been tracking the operation Mark's involved in for 8 months. She paused. Rebecca, he already knows your name. I sank back into the chair. My hands were trembling again. Not from fear this time, from exhaustion. From the weight of realizing that while I'd been cooking dinner and folding laundry and pretending everything was fine, my husband had been using my identity as a weapon. Angela sat across from me, her expression softer now. I need to show you something. It's not easy to look at, but you need to see it. She opened a drawer, pulled out a thin manila folder, and slid it across the desk. Agent Calloway sent this over last week. I didn't know it was connected to you until tonight. I opened the folder. Inside were photocopies of documents, bank forms, wire transfer receipts, and at the top of each one, printed in clean black ink, was my name, Rebecca Ann Turner. My signature was at the bottom, except it wasn't my signature. It was close. Too close. But the slant was wrong. The loops were too wide. He forged it, I whispered. Yes, but there's more. Angela reached over and flipped to the third page. Look at the witness line. I did, and my breath caught. Witness Margaret Turner, Mark's mother. Her signature was right there. Real, not forged. She'd signed her own name as a witness to documents she knew were fake. She was part of it, I said quietly. The words felt surreal. She knew. Angela nodded. Which means the moment Mark told you to move in with her, it was a trap. My voice came out flat, cold. He was trying to isolate me, put me somewhere he could control, somewhere she could watch me. Angela didn't deny it. She just closed the folder and pulled it back toward her. Rebecca, I'm not going to lie to you. This is bad. Your name is on federal records. You're listed as a co-account holder on 3 separate accounts tied to the laundering operation. If we don't move fast, if we don't prove you had no knowledge of this, you could be charged. I felt something crack inside me. Not fear. Worse. The realization that no matter what I did, I might not walk away from this. I didn't do anything wrong, I whispered. My voice broke. I didn't know. I believe you. Angela's tone was firm. And so will they. But you have to help us. You have to give them something they can use. I looked up at her, my vision blurred. What could I possibly give them? I don't know anything about money laundering or fraud. I don't even know who those men at the cabin were. Angela leaned forward. But you know something Mark doesn't think you know. Something small. A detail. A name. A date. Something that only you would have seen. I wiped my eyes and tried to think. Tried to go back through the months of late nights and closed doors and whispered phone calls. Tried to remember anything that might matter. And then it hit me. The safe, I said quietly. Angela's eyes sharpened. What safe? Mark has a safe in the garage, behind the tool cabinet. I only saw it once. He didn't know I was watching. He opened it and pulled out a binder. Dark blue. It had a label on the spine, but I couldn't read it from where I was standing. When was this? 2 weeks ago, maybe less. Angela grabbed her notepad and started writing. Did he put it back? I think so. I haven't been in the garage since. She looked up at me, and for the first time that night I saw something close to hope in her expression. That binder could have everything: account numbers, contacts, transaction records. If it's still there? A knock at the door cut her off. 3 sharp raps. Angela stood, walked to the door, and opened it. A man in a dark suit stepped inside. Late 40s, serious eyes, federal badge clipped to his belt. Ms. Pierce. He nodded at Angela, then looked at me. Mrs. Turner. His voice was calm, professional. But there was something in his eyes that made me believe he'd been waiting for this moment. Agent Calloway, Angela said. This is Rebecca Turner. She's ready to cooperate. He stepped closer, pulled out a small recorder, and set it on the desk. Mrs. Turner, he said quietly, I need you to tell me everything you know, and then I need you to tell me about the safe. Agent Calloway hit record. The small red light blinked on, and suddenly everything felt real in a way it hadn't before. Start with the cabin, he said. When did you follow your husband there? 3 months ago, maybe late August. Time of day? Morning, around 10. He nodded, making notes on a small pad. And you said he met 2 men. Can you describe them? I closed my eyes, trying to pull the memory into focus. I'd been parked far enough back that I couldn't see faces clearly, but I remembered other things, details I hadn't thought mattered at the time. One was older, maybe 50s, gray hair. He wore a suit, expensive looking, dark blue. The other was younger, 30s maybe. He had on jeans and a polo shirt. He was the one holding the folder. Calloway stopped writing. The younger man. Did you notice anything else? Tattoos? Scars? Anything distinctive? I thought harder. Tried to see him again in my mind. And then it came back, something small but clear. He had a limp. Not bad, but noticeable, like an old injury. Calloway looked up sharply. His eyes met Angela's across the desk. Something passed between them. Recognition. What? I asked. Do you know who that is? Calloway set his pen down. Mrs. Turner. The man you just described matches someone we arrested 4 weeks ago. His name is David Brennan. He was an accountant for a private investment firm in Fort Worth. He was also running a Ponzi scheme that defrauded investors out of nearly $2 million. The air in the room felt thinner. And Mark knew him, I said quietly. Yes. We believe Mark was a middleman. He helped Brennan move money through falsified accounts. Accounts like the one opened in your name. I felt the weight of it settle over me again. Every late night, every closed door, every lie Mark had told me with a straight face, it all led back to this. He hadn't just been hiding an affair or secret job. He'd been building a criminal network, and he'd put my name on it like a shield. If Mark knows you can identify Brennan, Agent Calloway continued, then you're a liability. And liabilities get eliminated. The word hung in the air. Eliminated. Angela leaned forward. You're saying she's in danger? I'm saying if Mark realizes his wife can place him at that cabin with a convicted fraudster, he'll do whatever it takes to make sure she doesn't talk. My hands tightened around the arms of the chair. He already slapped me. He already tried to send me away. Exactly, Calloway said. He's trying to control the situation, and the fact that he specifically told you to move in with his mother tells me she's part of the plan. I thought about Margaret Turner, cold, distant, a woman who'd never liked me and had made that clear from the day I met her, a woman whose signature was on forged documents. What does his mother get out of this? I asked. Calloway flipped through his notepad. We don't know yet, but she's been receiving wire transfers for the past 6 months, small amounts, 500 here, 1,000 there, enough to stay under the radar. We think Mark was paying her to stay quiet. Or to help him, Angela added. Either way, Calloway said, she's complicit. And if Mark sent you to her house, it wasn't out of concern. It was containment. I stood up, my legs shaky but steady enough. I walked to the window, blinds still closed, and pressed my palm against the cool glass. So what do we do? My voice came out quieter than I intended. If he's dangerous? If she's helping him? What am I supposed to do? Calloway stood as well. You stay away from both of them. We'll put you somewhere safe tonight. A hotel, separate name, separate account. Mark won't know where you are. And then what? And then we move. His tone was firm, certain. We've been building this case for months. We have Brennan, we have the financial records, we have the forged signatures. What we didn't have was someone who could place Mark at that cabin. But now we do. He looked at me directly. You just gave us the final piece, Mrs. Turner. Now we can move. Before I could respond, Angela's phone buzzed on the desk. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and picked it up. Pierce. She listened for a moment, her expression tightening. Then she looked at Calloway. It's Agent Ruiz. He says they just spotted Mark's car pulling into his mother's driveway. Calloway's jaw clenched. He reached for his own phone, already dialing. Tell Ruiz to hold position. Don't engage yet. He pressed the phone to his ear and spoke quickly. This is Calloway. I need a team at the Turner residence in 20 minutes. Full surveillance. No one goes in or out without my authorization. He hung up and looked at Angela, then at me. We're moving now. 23 minutes later, I was sitting in the back seat of an unmarked sedan, parked 3 blocks from Margaret Turner's house. Agent Calloway was in the front. Angela sat beside me, her hand resting on mine. You don't have to watch this, she said quietly. But I did. I needed to see it. Needed to see the woman who'd signed her name to my destruction get exactly what she deserved. Through the windshield, I could see the outline of the house. Small, single story. A rental Mark's mother had lived in for years. The lights were on inside. 2 cars were parked in the driveway. Mark's black sedan and his mother's old Honda. Calloway's radio crackled to life. Team in position, front and back exits covered. Calloway lifted the radio to his mouth. Copy. Hold until I give the signal. He glanced back at me. If this goes wrong, if Mark sees us coming, he could destroy evidence. So we're going in fast. Understood? I nodded. He turned back to the windshield, his jaw tight. Then he pressed the button on the radio. Go. Everything happened fast. Too fast to process in real time. I saw the agents move from the shadows, 4 of them, dressed in tactical gear, moving toward the house like ghosts. 2 went to the front door. 2 disappeared around the back, then the knock. Loud, authoritative. Federal agents! Open the door! Through the window, I saw movement inside. The house. A shadow crossing the living room, then another. Voices, muffled, panicked. The front door opened. Mark stepped out first, his hands raised, his face pale under the porch light. An agent grabbed him, turned him around, and cuffed him before he could say a word. But Margaret Turner didn't come out. Calloway's radio crackled again. Subject 2 attempting to flee through the back exit. She's carrying something. Calloway's eyes narrowed. Intercept. Do not let her leave the property. I leaned forward, my pulse hammering. Through the side mirror, I could see movement in the backyard. Agents converging, flashlights cutting through the darkness. And then I saw her, Margaret Turner, running across the yard in her bathrobe, clutching a metal safe box against her chest, like her life depended on it. She made it 3 steps before an agent caught her. The box hit the ground with a heavy thud. Margaret screamed, high, desperate, furious. You have no right, that's mine, that's private. The agent ignored her. He picked up the box, carried it back toward the house, and set it on the driveway under the porch light. Calloway stepped out of the car. Angela and I followed. We stayed back far enough not to interfere, but close enough to see everything. The agent pried open the safe box. Inside were stacks of documents, folders, envelopes, and sitting on top, crisp, unmistakable, was a binder with a dark blue cover. The same binder I'd seen Mark pull from the garage safe. Calloway knelt beside the box, pulled on a pair of gloves, and began flipping through the papers. His expression didn't change, but I saw the tension in his shoulders ease just slightly. He stood, walked over to where Mark was being held against the side of the house, and held up one of the documents. Mark Turner, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, identity theft, and falsification of federal documents. Mark's face twisted, not with fear, with rage. This is insane. I didn't do anything. He jerked his head toward his mother. She's the one who... Shut up, Mark. Margaret's voice cut through the night like a knife. She was on her knees now, hands cuffed behind her back, her face red and tear-streaked. Don't say another word. But Mark wasn't listening. He turned his furious gaze toward Calloway. My wife, Rebecca. She set me up. She's lying. She doesn't know anything. Your wife, Calloway said calmly, just saved herself by cooperating. You, on the other hand, are looking at 10 to 15 years. Mark's mouth opened, closed. And for the first time since I'd met him, he had nothing to say. An agent led him toward a waiting patrol car. Another agent pulled Margaret to her feet and did the same. I watched them both disappear into separate vehicles, watched the red and blue lights flash across the quiet suburban street, watched neighbors step onto their porches, phones out, recording everything. Calloway walked back to where Angela and I were standing. He was holding the blue binder. This has everything, he said. Account numbers, transaction records, communications with Brennan, and every single forged signature. He looked at me. Your name is all over this. But so is proof that you never signed a single one of these documents. I felt something break open in my chest. Not relief, not yet. Just the smallest crack of light. So, I'm clear? My voice was barely a whisper. You're clear, Calloway said. We'll need you to come in tomorrow to make an official statement, but as of right now, you're not a suspect. You're a victim. Angela squeezed my hand. Calloway's radio crackled again. Mark Turner, secure, transport en route. He lifted the radio. Copy. I want him downtown within the hour. Full processing. He lowered the radio and looked at me one more time. We have enough now. We're bringing him in. 2 days later, I stood on the sidewalk across from Mark's office building in downtown Dallas. The glass tower reflected the morning sun. People streamed in and out, suits, briefcases, coffee cups. Just another Tuesday in the business district. Except today was different. Angela stood beside me, her arms crossed, her expression calm but watchful. Agent Calloway had called her an hour earlier. We're moving on Turner this morning. If she wants to see it, tell her to be at his office by 9. So here I was, watching, waiting. You don't have to do this, Angela said quietly. You've already given your statement. You've done everything they asked. I kept my eyes on the building entrance. I need to see it. She didn't argue. At exactly 9:15, 3 black SUVs pulled up to the curb. No sirens, no flashing lights, just a quiet, controlled arrival. 6 agents stepped out. Calloway led them. They moved through the glass doors like a machine. Efficient, purposeful, unstoppable. I held my breath. It took less than 5 minutes. Mark came out first, flanked by 2 agents. His hands were cuffed in front of him. His tie was loosened. His face was pale, his eyes darting from side to side as if looking for an escape that didn't exist. Behind him, a small crowd had gathered. Co-workers, security guards, people who worked in the building and had stopped to watch. Some held their phones up, recording. Calloway stepped forward and read from a document in his hand. Mark Andrew Turner, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, identity theft, and falsification of federal documents. You have the right to remain silent. This is a mistake! Mark's voice cut through the morning air, loud, desperate. I didn't do anything. My wife, she set me up. Mr. Turner, Calloway said calmly. Your wife cooperated with our investigation and provided critical evidence. Evidence that corroborates what we already found in your mother's possession. You have no one to blame but yourself. Mark's face twisted. He looked at the crowd, at the cameras, at the agents surrounding him. And then, for just a moment, his eyes scanned the street. He saw me, standing across the road, watching, silent. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Just shock. Then something darker. Realization. An agent placed a hand on his shoulder and guided him toward the SUV. Mark stumbled slightly, caught himself, and turned back one more time. Rebecca, his voice cracked. Tell them you're lying. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just stood there, my arms at my sides, and watched him break. The agent pushed him into the back seat. The door slammed shut. And just like that, Mark Turner disappeared behind tinted windows. The crowd began to disperse. Phones were lowered. Conversations started up again. Within minutes, it was as if nothing had happened. But I felt it. The shift. The weight I'd been carrying for months, maybe years, finally lifting. Angela turned to me. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Free, I said quietly. She smiled, a small, genuine smile. Good, because you are. Calloway walked over, his expression softer now than it had been at the office that first night. Mrs. Turner, it's done. He'll be processed, arraigned, and formally charged by the end of the week. Given the evidence, his lawyer will likely advise him to plead guilty. If he does, you won't have to testify in court. And if he doesn't, then you'll take the stand, and you'll tell the truth, just like you've been doing. He paused. But either way, your name is cleared. Officially. Permanently. I nodded, unable to find the words. Calloway extended his hand. Thank you for your cooperation. You did the right thing. I shook his hand. Thank you for believing me. He gave a small nod, then walked back to his team. Angela placed a hand on my shoulder. It's over, Rebecca. You're safe now. I looked back at the building one last time, at the place where Mark had stood, handcuffed and humiliated, in front of everyone he'd ever tried to impress. And I whispered the words I'd been holding inside since the night he slapped me. You thought you could destroy me. Now you answer for everything. 3 weeks after Mark's arrest, I signed the divorce papers. Angela had prepared them the day after his arraignment. Clean. Simple. No contest. Mark's lawyer had advised him not to fight it. He had bigger problems to deal with. I sat at Angela's desk with a pen in my hand, staring at the line where my signature needed to go. For 7 years, I'd been Rebecca Turner. And now, with one stroke of ink, I could choose to be someone else. Someone free. I signed my name, my real name, the one I'd had before Mark. Before the late nights and the lies and the bank accounts I never opened. Rebecca Ann Calloway. It felt right. Like coming home. Angela took the papers, slipped them into a folder, and looked at me with something close to pride. It's official, she said. You're done. I nodded, but I didn't feel done. Not yet. There was still one more thing I needed to do. I moved out of our house the same week Mark was arrested. I didn't take much. Clothes, a few books, the framed photo of my parents that used to sit on the mantel. Everything else, the furniture, the dishes, the life I'd built with a man who never deserved it, I left behind. My new apartment was small. 1 bedroom. A kitchen, barely big enough for a table. But it had a balcony that looked west, toward the part of Dallas where the sun set in shades of amber and gold. And it was quiet. No footsteps in the hallway, No doors slamming. No voice telling me I didn't understand. No fear tightening in my chest every time I heard a car pull into the driveway. Just silence. And for the first time in years, silence felt like peace. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror one evening, a week after the divorce papers were filed. I looked at my reflection, really looked, and saw someone I barely recognized. Not because I'd changed physically, but because the fear was gone. For years, I'd looked at myself and seen someone small, someone who stayed quiet, someone who ignored the red flags and defended a man who was using her as a shield. But now, I saw something else. Strength, clarity, survival. I whispered to the woman in the mirror, "You're still here. He tried to destroy you, and you're still here." 2 days later, Angela called. "Turn on the news," she said. No greeting, just urgency. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local station, and there it was. A headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Dallas man pleads guilty to federal fraud charges, faces 12 years in prison. The anchor's voice filled my small living room. Mark Andrew Turner, a former investment consultant, pleaded guilty this morning to multiple counts of fraud, money laundering, and identity theft. Federal prosecutors say Turner used falsified accounts, including one in his wife's name, to launder over $800,000. His mother, Margaret Turner, also faces charges for aiding in the scheme. Both are expected to be sentenced next month. The screen cut to footage of Mark being led out of the courthouse. His suit was wrinkled. His face was drawn. He didn't look at the cameras, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even satisfaction. Just the quiet knowledge that justice had been served. I turned off the TV and walked to the balcony. The Texas sky was already starting to shift, pale blue fading into pink and gold. The city stretched out below me, alive and humming, completely unaware of the small victory happening 15 floors up. I leaned against the railing and closed my eyes. Let the evening air wash over me. Let the weight of the past few months finally settle into something I could carry. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who stayed quiet, who ignored the signs, who believed love meant loyalty, even when loyalty became harm. And I thought about the woman I was now, the one who called a lawyer, who trusted her instincts, who walked out of that house and never looked back. They weren't the same person, and I was grateful for that. Somewhere in a federal holding facility, Mark Turner was learning what it meant to lose everything. His business, his reputation, his freedom. All of it gone because he thought he could use the woman who loved him as a disposable tool. And somewhere in a small rental house, his mother was probably doing the same. But I wasn't thinking about them anymore. I was thinking about tomorrow, about the job interview I had scheduled, about the lunch I'd planned with my sister, about the life I was starting to build, one that belonged only to me. The sun dipped lower. The sky turned copper. And I let myself smile. I whispered the words into the open air. Not for him, not for anyone else. Just for me. This chapter of my life is closed. I took a breath. Deep, full, free. And I'm finally free. The city lights began to flicker on below. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Home.